Welcome back. This is Mackenzie. I am a certified hypnotherapist and a past life healer. And today we are sitting down with Miss Abby Green.
Hello, guys.
She is a dear friend of mine from back in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And we connected. I'll tell the story in a second, but we're going to go over some of her past lives that might give her a little bit of clarity to why her life is where it's at right now. So it's a little bit of a funny story. Abby and I have not spoken in years, and we were on the same gymnastics team back in high school. We had a really great time, and it's really unfortunate that we haven't stayed in touch, but I guess in the most perfect divine timing of things, here we are. You posted, Abby, about having an autoimmune disorder or illness. I never know what to say because I have rheumatoid arthritis.
All of it is just hard. Like regardless of what you name it, disease, inflammation, whatever it is, it makes you just feel like you're sinking. It makes you feel like death a lot of days, and it's just really, really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And so when we connected, we had a really just strange series of events that were very much aligned. And that's how all this began. So to give you kind of a quick insight, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis early to 2021. I gave birth to a baby 2019. The pandemic started, and there is just such a big series of very, very stressful events that it's like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to throw my hands up. But when we compared stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not alone. So if you want to kind of share your story real quick, Abby, about everything that we've talked about, that would be awesome.
Oh my goodness. And there's so many working parts with it. But yeah, the pregnancy trigger. I mean, I got pregnant in December of 2020 and then started a podcast in got pregnant in December of 1999. Wow.
Whoa.
Brain fog is so real. So you guys, Hashimotos is what I have, along with long haul COVID. And sometimes when I start talking, it's almost like the stutter comes up. And it's very interesting because it's a piece that I've never had. I've always been very sharp with my words. And so whenever it comes up, I'm like, wait, this isn't me. But as we're finding out, as I've been working with you, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not me. It's this part of me that I need to figure out. Mm-hmm. And then these little ailments, these little issues will hopefully leave and I can go back to my normal self. But not in 1999. In 2019, I became pregnant with our third kiddo, started a business just a few weeks later. And then it's a podcast-based business. We're speaking to women. We're speaking to busy mothers who listen to us on their commute to the work. They're on their, when they go to the gym, when they have a break from their kids, they're listening to our podcast. Well, just a few months later, in March of 2020, I went part-time at work because I wanted to take this Herself podcast seriously. And then 10 days later, the pandemic hit. And during that time, all of our moms who were listening on their commute to work no longer had a commute to work. Gyms were shut down. So this podcast that, was beautiful and growing and just like erupted like fire in January of 2020, all of a sudden it's like on life support. We're trying to figure out how can we connect with our community. Mm-hmm. Well, that's in March of 2020. 1 month later, in April of 2020, I go in for my 20-week anatomy scan. The time that you get to find out if you're having a boy or a girl. You're so excited. I was extra excited because it was the first doctor appointment that I'd had with this baby. Because of the pandemic, I was having a doctor appointment.
Yeah.
So, and I almost didn't even go in because it's my third time around, healthy baby. They're like, you know what? You probably don't need to come in. I'm like, I think I should. I mean, I haven't really seen you guys. I mean, there's baby is moving, that kind of stuff. So I go in and gosh, they are thorough. Like this third time around, this appointment took almost 2 hours. It had multiple doctors. People kept coming in and leaving. And at this point, I just wanted to get back to work. Like I didn't care about seeing my baby anymore, but she'd come in and say, let's just look at the baby's heart one more time. Okay, let's look at the baby's brain one more time. Okay, just one more look at the heart. Okay, now the spine. And finally, like 4, 5, 6 doctors came in and they're all wearing full PPE, like head to toe, masks. You can't see who's talking. And I hear words like hole in the heart, brain cyst, bloody bowels, possible chromosomal abnormalities. And what we later found out about
Oh,
2 weeks later,
jeez.
I know it was a lot. And even thinking back, I'm like, gosh, I was alone in that. Like my husband couldn't even come because it was the pandemic. And we found out that our baby was going to be born with Down syndrome. And this was just
Wow.
a few weeks after going in to see our baby for the very first time, and all of a sudden figuring out that our life was going to be turned upside down.
Totally. So during that appointment, did you suspect anything that people, as people were just coming in and out, or did you think, oh, this is my first appointment? They're just taking the extra precautions.
I didn't for the first probably hour and 15 minutes, but then when she kept on coming back in, I was like on my phone for a while, and then I
Oh,
started thinking about the movies that I've watched. Literally, that's what I thought of, was the movies where they're like, "Oh wait, there's no heartbeat. Oh, there's," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, like what's going on here?" So then when all the people came in, I'm like, "Okay, what's going on? What's
right. And then once they said that to you, what were some of the things that went through your head?
Yeah, well, the things that went through my head were, I was kind of guided on a journey. So right that minute, and for people who have ever been in this position, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You literally are taken to like 3 or 4 different rooms. You're taken to the room where they ask, "Do you want to terminate the baby?" Like right away. And I'm like, I literally just found out that our baby might have an issue. Like 3 minutes ago.
Wow.
Like, I cannot make this decision. My husband doesn't even know yet. I'm trying to call him, there's no reception. So like that's the first thing. So like all these things go through your mind. And then you're brought into a room where they talk about like all the statistics. And because I was 35, I had a higher chance. Because the baby had 4 different soft markers, I had a higher chance. So it's like
Right.
all these different chances. And during that time, Mackenzie, I literally thought, not my baby. Like
Right.
that's that. I have a 1 in 30 chance right now. That's like looking at a classroom of kids. Like, what are the chances that one of those kids is mine? You know, it's like 1 in 30. Probably not my kid. Probably
Right.
not my kid. So not that I had
Wow.
like a glowy outlook on it, because at that point in time, I just didn't have any idea what having a child with Down syndrome would mean for our family.
Uh-huh.
But it's like it probably isn't. It probably isn't true.
Right. Wow. And then what did life look like right after that during the pregnancy?
Yeah, so I went from having 0 appointments to having 3 appointments a week. So with any baby who has Down
Wow.
syndrome or any chromosomal abnormality, you have NST checks, which is pretty much just a stress check, because as soon as a baby is stressed, then they need to come out that day. Babies with Down syndrome are also generally born prematurely. It's just part of nature's process. So starting at
Okay.
26 weeks, they are testing to make sure that the baby can even stay inside. Because the baby had a hole in his heart and a cyst on his brain. It was like more checks, checking the brain, going to see a heart specialist, seeing a liver specialist. So just a lot of appointments for one human being.
Right. So then when about in this process did you start experiencing your first autoimmune symptoms?
Yeah, I just got tired. So with pregnancy, and I know that you had the same thing too, where you were just
Right.
sick. So I was so sick for the first 15 weeks, and then it let up. And then all of a sudden, I was just really, really tired. I couldn't work
Okay.
out like I normally could. I was just like achy all the time,
Mm.
and
Okay.
also like mood swings, like the mood issues, depression, anxiety started to heighten. But that could all be attributed to you have a baby in a pandemic who has Down syndrome, and it's your 3rd child. Like
Yeah.
very obvious, you're going to be a tired mom who's
Right.
stressed out, who has a sore back. Like duh.
Right.
So didn't really think anything of it. But the issue is that after he was born, which was the most magical birth experience, like I would do that birth experience over and
Oh,
over again. He came out perfect. Brain cysts had gone away. Hole in the heart healed up. Liver issue changed around a few months later. Like everything was just a miracle. But even after he was born, I still stayed tired. And I stayed tired. I mean, I'm still tired. I'm still
mm,
tired. And he's over 2.
right. Right. And that was similar for me too, because when I had a baby, the first few months were magical. I was just so happy to not be pregnant because I was so nauseous that whole time. Even up through the very labor, I was vomiting at every contraction. It was just it was something I would never want to experience again. But I started as the year went on, I got more and more tired. And then it started becoming painful to even pick up my child, and like changing diapers was the worst, having to move my wrist. And then all of a sudden, it was one day I knew something was wrong. and I couldn't get myself off the couch. I was so bone tired. And it was just like everything in my body hurt. I'm like, okay, this is not stress. We were also in transition of jobs. My company, I was selling these plush toys on Amazon. That basically folded overnight. So yeah, there's a lot of stress here. But then it's like, oh, well, I'm just tired. And then it went from just feeling tired to know there was a problem to getting diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in like 5 seconds. Like, what is going on? But this is really what started on a very, very deep level, really pushing me. I've always been spiritual, so I can't say that it pushed me into my spirituality, but it forced me to really start taking a look at things that I refused to look at up to this point. And that's, I don't know, I just felt really drawn to reach out to you when I saw you talking about having Hashimotos, and just knowing you being in a specific part of your life where you're jumping into entrepreneurship. You had a nauseous pregnancy. There's a lot of things here that are not coincidence. And I'm really hoping that we could, anyone watching this can also start putting the pieces together to some of this stuff, because I think it's really easy for us to sort of segment our lives and think, oh, just coincidence. This is like its own bubble, and this is over here, and this is over there, but they're all working as one. And when you start observing that and seeing that, that's when you start moving through the symptoms. You start moving through these pockets in your life that are at a standstill. But there's a reason why these things are happening, because your subconscious, your higher self is basically knocking on the door. They're like, hello, it's time to get rid of this stuff. So before we go into your past lives, which by the way, I got a ton of really, you can't really see with the light. I wasn't surprised some of the stuff I found, because this is where it's going to get a little bit woo-woo today. And I'm not surprised going into your consciousness how woo-woo this is. But you're definitely an old soul. You're not one of the newbies that this is like your first rodeo here on earth, where, you know, maybe we've had some past lives where we've dealt with some more of like basic life experiences. Like, you really have experienced it all. And you are in a place now where you are releasing so much stuff. Like, so much stuff. And I had a very specific, I won't go into the details of it, but something happened a few months before I got diagnosed with RA. And it's like one of those experiences where people say they have a spiritual experience. This is like in your face, like the archangels being like, remember us situation.
Yeah.
And you're like, ah. In fact, my husband was like, do I need to take you to the hospital? And I'm like, no. Wow. I'm like, I see everything. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, why I'm here, how past lives work, how the quantum works, who all these archangels are. And then they told me, you're here to work with ascension. But I had no idea at the time what that even meant. But now I'm going through that process too, and it's so physical. So when you're releasing all of these old paradigms, these old karmic patterns, subconscious belief systems that are no longer benefiting you, it's like we're purging them so massively that our bodies have they don't know what to do other than just kind of freak out. And now we have a lot of people getting diagnosed with specific cancers, autoimmunes, whatnot, but it's all this blocked emotion that's coming to surface for us to release. So when you go in this process, Abby, I think now that you're going to be much more aware on a deeper level, some of the things that are going on, maybe some level of pain and fatigue that typically would last, you're going to start seeing that dissipate less and less and less. Because when I got diagnosed, my blood levels were so high, and my doctor was like so confused. He's like, how have you not had symptoms longer? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you about this spiritual experience. Like, you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy. But I'm like, that's what prompted this, was almost like overnight. But then I went deep into past life healing hypnotherapy, diet was huge, medical medium. And I had this thing almost undetectable in 4 months. So, you know, there's a wave here because then sometimes I snowball in these old emotions and patterns, and then I'm like in pain again. So it's my body saying, hey, let's move on. But the other thing I want to bring up before going into this is my mother also thought I was going nuts because I walked into the living room and I go, oh, I'm from Atlantis. And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I go, no. I'm like, holy shit, I'm finishing my life from Atlantis. And all of a sudden, all these things about Atlantis started popping up and I started having these visions. I got a book and they almost described to a T
Oh my gosh.
what I was seeing. And I'm like, I'm not going crazy. And other intuitives started talking about too, how we are healing and basically balancing all of these old paradigms that were created during the times of Atlantis. So of course, when I went into your lives, the first thing I see is an Atlantis life. So we're going to integrate some of that stuff here. And I don't totally know what you are doing. I went in 3 times trying to figure it out, and spirit won't tell me, of course. But let me give you kind of an idea of this. And there's a reason why I told you like this whole story too. So you were a male, and I saw you in a boat navigating, and it's like you had this huge book. I mean, just like so much intricate information about lattice points. Okay. So let me just kind of go through what they've shared with me. So are you familiar with ley lines?
I'm not. Let me know more.
Okay. So you have to look at everything is energy. Everything. Even like think of our bodies. We have our physical body's energy, but we have these energetic layers that also like are part of us. But the world has basically these sort of like chakra lines as well. So you can look up a map, and I'll probably edit like a map on here as we're talking, but I'm not super familiar with how it all works. But there are these specific lines that like go around the world, and they have very, very specific energies that flow. And where they cross, there's like significant meaning to each of those points, like these little lattice points. So I know there's one at like Mount Shasta, which is outside of San Francisco.
Okay.
And a while ago, I'd asked my friend, I go, why did you incarnate here? Like, why San Fran? And he goes, oh, it's to be by that lattice point.
Okay.
So I even had a client who was born in Mexico because there's a lot of crystal energy there. And again, it has something to do with ley lines. There's a connection to Atlantis. And then they told me that she moved up into the area, Missouri, for some reason. And I'm like, I remember something about that. And there's the same crystal energy, again, connected to the ley lines in Atlantis, and her soul wants to be close specifically to those energies.
Oh, cool. Okay, yes.
Okay, so with that being said, this is really cool, by the way. So the information she found in that time was lost, and she holds a key to the info of lattices that we do not have today. She understands how to work with these lattice points in conjunction with the quantum. This is important because as the world becomes more universal and movement is easier, people will understand how to work with astrology and lattice points in specific times for ascension and clearing of old karmic patterns.
So cool.
So I didn't know. Okay, so I'll explain to you how I was seeing it. It was like, okay, quantum. You can describe it however you want. So it could be heaven, other side, different dimension. This is where our souls are coming from. It works in these perfect geometric patterns. So patterns and symbols. And if you were to even like basically decode each individual human, we have our own like codes and patterns. And through each incarnation, we come through specific patterns that get played out in the patterns that we see in our 3D reality. So it had something to do, like I don't understand how it worked, but something to do then with the coding of that person that incarnates for a specific time in that specific energy. It's almost like, you know what it reminds me of now that I think about it? You know, the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, yes. That
Kinda,
frustrating thing?
yeah, that just popped. It's kind of like that. Like you figured out the perfect time that the Rubik's Cube comes together with all the colors perfect. And it's like, that is ascension.
Oh my gosh.
But you
Okay.
can't like just do it at any time. Like there's a specific thing that people will go to those points for. But how that works, I don't know. So, okay, then I don't really, okay. Here's why I thought this was important too, though, because remember you were telling me that you like systems.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking. I like systems. I like
This is
figuring
very
things out.
systematic.
Yes.
It's very systematic. It's kind of like inside of you, like you know how to work with the system of the universe, while the rest of us are like scraggling. Like, why is this happening? But right now she's trying to control the outcome, so she's making herself sick.
Yep. I mean, that's my life. Like even with my husband, with my business partners, I mean, my kids probably even see it, my closest friends, I'm always thinking 7 steps ahead. So I see
Right.
7 steps ahead and then I'm figuring out, and we do this as moms, right? Where we're like, okay, if
Yeah.
we leave the house by 11:59, we have to do this, breakfast, and you're working your way backwards. I do that with every piece of my life. And I do it like that, but it's
Interesting.
also always in my mind. So I have my husband's schedule, I have my business partners and
Right.
the different businesses schedules, the podcast schedule, my kids' schedules, each of their individual schedules, my own schedule when it comes to personal life, to business, to all these lives. And they're all working in my mind,
Right.
but it's a lot.
Right. And maybe that makes sense with some of the stuff I saw here, because there was something about, you know, I'm going to skip. There's other stuff involved in this. Soul, okay, so I will go back to that too. Renegade, Black Stallion, soul level. She wants to know if she wants to know what it feels like to have structure with no regard to the laws of the universe. And it's her path to integrate that back in. Yeah, there we go. That makes sense. I channel so much stuff I don't even remember what I write.
The
So it
two
just
pages
kind of
of them,
tells
it's
us
all
as we,
coming together.
yeah. So she wants to know what it feels like to have structure with no regards to the laws of the universe. Yeah, so you're not flowing at all. You're like projecting a structure and being like, this is what it's going to do, but it's not really working for you.
Well, and it's not working with the world. It's like, hey,
Right,
world, you're going to do this. I'm
right,
just like, you're a pawn in my book right now. Instead of being like,
right,
well, let me on my journey. No.
right, right. So it's her path is to integrate that back in. So
Okay.
just flow of the universe, really. I mean, so she will teach people how to do this, but she needs to figure it out first. And when she does, physical symptoms will go away.
Okay.
Because then we'll skip this life. Yeah, we'll skip that life and go to this one, because I wasn't satisfied with everything I saw. I'm like, well, I still am not like connecting the dots here, because did you do crew or anything?
I didn't do crew. I did cross country, gymnastics, track, race walking,
Okay.
drama club. Yeah, no boat type stuff though. I did sail with my dad quite a bit.
No, then I think this is all symbolic, because I was just kind of going in a little bit deeper. And I wish I remember what I was asking, honestly, and I didn't write it down. They took me to Boston for some reason. This is all symbolic. This isn't like where you are or anything. but they were showing me rowers in the river there, like rowers, like
Yes.
athletic.
Yeah.
And basically they were showing me just like how sync they were. Like they were in sync individually with their bodies, in sync in perfect harmony with everybody else.
Mm.
Oh, and you just said it's like my world.
Mm-hmm. It's like my body with my body, my body with my world. Yeah.
Okay, look at that. Creating harmony with the body and using the body. And when I asked why, like what's the significance? Like why be in sync? Why the body like that? And I just got, sometimes spirit plays with me just for fun. This is just like playing with me because it was kind of an obvious question. But there, I just saw a guy in a hat on a bench laughed and said, well, isn't that the point of life?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even that line, I have said that so many times. Like when I'm trying to talk myself out of this control, I'm like, that the point of motherhood is that it's supposed to be messy. Like that's the point of motherhood. If it's all tied up
Right,
in a bow, I mean,
right,
that's not childhood. Like that's not childhood.
right,
Like the point of business is to have it be a little bit messy so you can learn and figure out what you're supposed to do next. Like that's the point of business,
right,
especially in the beginning.
right.
But as somebody
Yeah,
who loves control, it's like, no, no, no. I'm going to have it be neatly tied up with a bow right from the start. Watch.
right, right. Man, that's so cool. And I think that's so, but feel like on many levels, a lot of people are going through that because from an ego standpoint, like we want to be in control. But then it's sort of an oxymoron because we're not in control, yet we, at a soul level, are in control. And it's like this balance of what are we in control of and not. And it's like, I don't know. Like today, I will say I was very resistant to the fact that we're homesick again. Like I legit have been angry about it. It's like I don't get a break,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And it's like I try to force that, but what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't
The
know.
frustration, that emotion.
But there's a couple more lives here because I saw you early 1900s New York City, lonely old guy, very cynical.
Lonely old guy, very cynical. Okay. Hello. It's funny because
So
I was talking about 1999 earlier. Now I'm like, okay, this is like 1909. Okay. What's going on here?
so I would see you, you would like go to a cafe and you would just watch people. And the thought would go through your mind is like, you're kind of cynical about it. Like they're being run by the universe and they don't even know it. Like
Mm.
again, like you would see the patterns of people, the same routine. And it's like you still knew that the universe flowed because you worked with it so deeply back in Atlantis. Like you know that. Like everything works in its perfect way. Um, and the obsession with sometimes I have to write so fast when it comes through. I can't even. Okay. Obsession with something. Oh, obsession with sticking to his own routine that he essentially missed the point of life. Her life is now a reflection of that journey, embracing the human. What are the human needs? Creating balance. Has gone a little too far, which is okay. And it's okay to bring in the spiritual side to create that harmony. So it kind of feels like your work is more definitely, I asked if you were ever going to go spiritual with your work, and I got a no on that, that it's
Okay.
more based in human needs, because that's what your podcast is all about.
Yeah. Yep. Basically,
Okay.
and I can see where the structure of things like stops me from enjoying what is in front of me.
Mhm.
Like that is something that
Yeah.
it happens a lot, and I can like try, and I do try, and I've gotten so much better too. Like me 3 years ago versus me today, night and day difference. But it took Owen's birth. It took literally being thrown a 180 in the middle of a pandemic with a kid with Down syndrome in order to be like, okay, things can change, and this is the path
Right.
you're supposed to be on.
Right. And I think this message is more for other people that might be watching it more than you, because I know we've slightly chatted about this, but even Owen is definitely a soul place in your life to trigger these ascension points. It's
100%.
like really making you slow down and take a look at things. Um, after I had given birth to Griffin, the level of nausea that I experienced really did affect me. Like I had a little bit of PTSD from it because when I get even just like the slightest nauseous now, I'm like, because it would be so debilitating for weeks until it would let up. It was like, what is this? And Spirit had shared with me, well, Griffin, my son, is a very, very high vibrational soul. So it's almost like this incompatibleness between us, because think of plugging in an appliance into a voltage that's too high.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to freak out, and that's what the body's doing. And why so many women are experiencing such extreme nausea right now is because of the wave of all of these souls. They're not incarnating anymore on the same DNA patterns that they used to. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they're coming in to experience life from a higher vibration.
Oh my God.
So that's
Yeah.
what's going on there. And I just, at least not maybe for everyone, I can't blanket everybody's situation, but just generally speaking. But yeah, so that's what Owen's doing, by the way.
Right. When I speak to women every day, I mean, between my coaching practice and the podcast and just friends, and there's definitely something going on, like this apathy towards life, this like total wanting to change. Like there is something, people come into this room where I am right now every single week and break down in tears because they're like, what the heck is going on? Like the pandemic happened 2.5 years ago. Like, why am I still being affected from this? And it's like, no, it's not the pandemic. There is a
Right,
shift going on because this is something that is universal. It is something
right,
that every woman who has come in here has experienced, is expressing right now at some degree. And we got
right.
to figure this out.
Yeah, yeah. And there's just a lot of old, deep karmic patterns that are just coming to surface and they're getting removed right now. It is not fun. I I just did a healing session with my healer, Jacqueline, because there's a specific pattern that I experience over and over and over again. And I'm like, how many dang times do I have to heal this?
Mhm.
But it just shows how many layers there are. And the truth is, these old subconscious beliefs and energetic patterns no longer serve me. And I've already set the intention, like, I'm moving past this. This is like the last life I'm dealing with this. So it just seems like boom, 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 constant new something comes up. But at the same time, though, I'm not going to have to deal with that anymore. So these sort of feelings that like you're all over the place and like they're just very overwhelming, anxiety, they can make you a little depressed. You're really being pushed out of your comfort zone, maybe coming forward. But it's interesting because what was holding me back were all these different lives I've had where I finally did get it all. I achieved it all. I had everything. And then it would always be taken away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm still operating off of that. It's like, why did we just finally move into the house I've always wanted? And I get preschool full time, and then everything else explodes and I can't focus on my work again. Well, if I had that piece to the puzzle, I'd have everything.
Mhm. But just dangling in front of you. Oh my gosh, so true.
And it's like, gosh, dang it. And I will say, today I've been going through these emotions of being like, my soul betrayed me. My
Mm.
soul is betraying me. And I was like, oh crap, that's another subconscious belief I have. I have to start like clearing
Clearing that part out. Yeah.
clearing that out too. But let me go through one more life. So the other life I saw you was you, and I'm not surprised, Abby, you were practicing witchcraft.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Is it like Salem type stuff or where is this?
I don't know. I should have asked. I didn't ask. But okay, it was interesting. Okay, when I see things, again, the geometric pattern, everything works in clockwise. Everything works clockwise. And you were in a circle with women around a fire going counterclockwise. So you had this way of sort of like using the universe the way it goes, but using it in the opposite way for like not such good things. And you would throw, like, psychically speaking, symbols into the fire. So again, you're connected to like the patterns and symbols of things, and you were really good at it.
Okay, well, at least I'm good at the really bad thing. I mean,
You were good at it. Yeah, you knew how to work with energy to create imbalances.
okay. Well, I
Good.
mean, my heart was in the right place, maybe. Something
You're not the only one.
something funny on that. So my husband, his grandma's maiden name is Stoughton, and his 13th great uncle was Judge Stoughton, the man who sentenced all those women to death. So very interesting that that's like
I,
all coming together. Yes.
wow.
So that's
Huh.
Judge Stone. So if you research Judge Stone, anyone who's watching this right now, yep, that is part of the generational line that my husband is part of.
Wow, interesting. And I wonder what your generational line has.
I know.
That would be interesting to
Very interesting.
know.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is karmic. She is experiencing those same imbalances now that you created.
Just come back at me. Okay, witchy, witchy, witchy.
Oh, okay. I remember this now. Okay. She is powerful. Powerful. I really got that. It kind of felt like when I was in, it was like I don't like to people get turned off by spirituality because people feel like there's like a rating of people,
Mm-hmm.
like better, and like that's not true. But there are souls that are just like at a different vibration. Like you've got power, like not semi-power, like you're a powerful creator. And that was what they were showing me. I don't know what this is called. I've tried looking it up. A winged lion. So it's like the opposite of a griffin.
Right. Right. A winged lion. Okay.
Yeah. And that was kind of what they were showing me as like representative of your soul. And then it was like a winged lion, but the lion had like claws of a bird. And it
Okay.
was like you were tearing off, this is symbolic, tearing off the darkness with your feet like a cloud, and you just whoosh, peel it right back because you could. It's like you can create it because you wanted to that experience of creating it, but you can also peel it back as quickly as it started.
Hey.
It's
Okay.
like there's that level of ability to do that. And it's like there's a level of undestructibility with you, like at a soul level. Like people aren't gonna fuck with you. Like,
Okay.
do you feel that way? Are people like I wouldn't want to get on your bad side.
Got it. Yes. And the small people pleaser tendency in me, you wouldn't even know if you're on my bad side because that would come out. I will say that before all this started happening, I did feel like unbreakable for much of my life. Like if I
Yeah,
wanted to run faster, I just would. If I wanted to make more friends, I just did. If I wanted to go on stage and do a presentation after not practicing, I just could. Like it was like one of those
right,
things that's like if I want to do something, I will.
right,
However, if I don't want to do something, I'm going to fail so miserably that like it'd be worse than like the average person failing. Like it would be just like fall on your face flat, like scraping blood everywhere kind of a deal. So like that's like the black and white mentality of like so good or so bad. Like I didn't live in the gray for very much of my life.
right. Yeah, because you're not here to do mediocre.
I'm not here to do mediocre. I
Yeah,
don't do mediocre. I just don't do it. I just
right.
do it.
Yeah. And this is where it's like there's no right or wrong. You wanted to come in and experience working with dense energy. That's it. I mean, that's why we like to judge all these things, but I don't know if I've had that experience actually. I remember spirit telling me I didn't, and I was like, well, that's too bad.
Come on, I want
Why
that
didn't,
too.
but like you definitely have because you wanted to know what that was like. But there is a purpose to that. I mean, there's a consciousness expansion being like, okay, this is how you work with that. This is then what gets created. This is how you balance. But it's just like you do it, but you do it. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I want it, and I can't find the name, the winged lion. I've never seen it before.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna do some research after this. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and also a black stallion appeared at one point, and I forgot to look that up too. So, yeah, I really want to work on this one. There was a lot of good stuff.
That sounds amazing. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. So hopefully that creates some clarity for you, Abby. But does it resonate with you? Like, what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
There's like certain parts of every piece that I'm pulling out, like the lattice points being so like concrete, yet they're for something hugely creative. Like that's my life, where it's like I have to figure out these little pieces, but then also realize this big picture. But sometimes I get so fixated on these little pieces that it's
Right.
hard for me to see beyond this like lattice point. So like being able
Right.
to take a step back with that really thick book and being able to use that as the compass to where I'm going,
Right.
that's a key to success right there.
Right.
And then literally imagining that old man, not the cynical one. I mean, I can see the cynical one, like just judging people as they come in and be like, oh, like look at that. I mean, like, I think about that with like something as silly as like sports, right? I'm like, okay, why would you want to sit there and watch sports when you can be out there actually playing it? Like I'm judging you just by like looking at you right now. But in like the big scheme of things, like, you know what? We can all just do our own thing. Like I can be that old man drinking my coffee, and all these people coming in can do their own thing, and that's okay too.
Right.
But what I really liked was that person sitting on the bench, the one who's like, oh, what did he even say? The one with the baseball cap, being like, oh, she could do it if she wanted to, but she's not. I can't remember what the exact saying was.
Oh, he's like
Yeah, the person,
when I asked about like why the like going in your body, like being in sync
yes,
and harmony, I was
yes,
like, well, what's the point? Like, why is that significant? Well, isn't that the point of
the whole
life?
point. Isn't that the whole point? And I literally say that so many times when I'm trying to talk myself out of this control.
How
I'm like, that's the
funny.
point. Like, that's the point. I mean, I gave a
Yeah.
presentation today on perfectionism, and I think I said that line twice in that perfectionism presentation of like, that's the whole point.
Right.
That's the whole point. Whenever I talk about habits, so I'm creating a course right now on self-care, and they're like, yeah, that book is really repetitive. Like that book on habits is really repetitive. I'm like, you guys, that's the point. That's the point. Like the point of some of these things is exactly what you're saying. Like you're looking at it as a bad thing. And no, that's the whole point.
Right.
So that like really is hitting home with me right now, just because it's been part of my
Yeah.
daily language for many, many months.
Right. So ultimately, it's like you are exactly where you're supposed to be. It's like so hard to hear that sometimes. And this is for anyone because we always have this vision of where we want to be and how we want things to be going. And then it doesn't match and our expectations fall flat. But it's like at the end of the day, there is a time and place for everything of why that experience is playing out the way that it is. And it's like you now are going in the experience of like, okay, well, I'm going to put all these different things in my, like in your point of view that's in the way, like the extreme fatigue. But
Mhm.
it's really just being like, okay, well, if you're not going to like sit down and really learn how to go with the flow, then this fatigue aspect of you is going to make you slow down and go with the flow. It's
Yeah.
like there's no choice. And it was like when we stop listening to ourselves, the universe, our intuition, that's when these manifestations start happening, you know, and that's like such a hard thing to swallow for some people.
I also think it's kind of empowering. Like, I mean, it's a hard thing to swallow. Like, we can look at it
Hmm.
that way. But we can
Right.
also look at it as an opportunity to
It
be like,
is.
we aren't stuck here. Like, we just
No.
aren't listening. Like, we
Yeah.
just aren't listening. Like, as soon as we can start listening, and whatever, you know, if you're watching this, like, whatever your issue is right now, like, if you can just start listening to yourself and to what the world
Right.
is bringing in, those types of things can feel so much more clear. And we
Right.
can rise above it.
Right. And that's, I mean, after COVID and stuff, people are being forced now to start listening.
Yes.
It's like your conscious efforts aren't working anymore. You have to start going with the flow. Like what else are you gonna do?
What else are you gonna do? That's the point. That's the point, you guys.
That's the point of life.
That's
That's
the
the
point.
point of life. All right, Abby. Well, this was wonderful. I think we're gonna end it right here. This was such a great opportunity to see some amazing past lives. So thank you. But everyone check out Abby's podcast. It is really good. I used to listen to it. I'm going to get back on this train.
There we
It's
go.
been a while. It's not you. I'm like literally never on podcasts ever, but I'm inspired. I will get back on there. It's called Herself, and you have a partner, Amy.
I do, yes.
And is there anyone else that works with you on that, or is it you and Amy?
Yep, it's me and Amy. And then for those who are more business minded, we have another podcast called Pursuing Her Purpose. And I work on that with Amy as well, and also Kat.
Okay.
And the three of us, we are helping women start their businesses and start them right on values. Like that's the big thing, is that we start mother-owned businesses built on values.
Totally. Well, that's awesome. I'll leave your info in the description below, but thank you for checking out this beautiful YouTube, and I will see you next time here at MacFlick Hypnotherapy and Past Life Healing.